Isn't this amazing? All of the rabbis in all of the synagogues all over the world are giving their sermons tonight virtually as we welcome the new year. Now, this has resulted in a new pandemic, the largest outbreak ever of artificial insemination. Now that you're all done groaning at home, let me ask again, isn't this amazing? Who would have thought that the world would change so much since we were all together last year in the sanctuary to welcome the new year? No in-person services, no going to the office, no going to the movies, restaurants, ball games, Shabbat services, weddings, B'nai Mitzvah, concerts, vacations, airports, hotels. The economy is contracting. Our waistlines are expanding. Anxiety is up. Portfolios are down. Jobs gone. Gains gone. Fun gone. Hugging gone. And then there's the exhaustion of Zoom after Zoom after Zoom, day after day after day. So much is gone, and so much has changed in what must be the most challenging time many of us have ever lived through. But is it? I guess that depends on what you mean by us. If you mean the Jewish people, anyone with even a 7th grade education knows, despite how bad it is, COVID is far from the worst the Jewish people has seen. And I am not only talking about the Holocaust, which is obviously the worst. One of the most moving parts of a traditional Yom Kippur service is the recital of the Asara Harugei Malchut, a treatise on the 10 rabbinic leaders martyred by the Romans. The Romans wrapped rabbis in Torah scrolls and set them on fire. Rabbi Akiva's skin and flesh was raked from his body by their iron combs. Our Eastern European ancestors were quarantined in ghettos, not for weeks, not for months, not for years, not for decades, but for centuries, only to be harassed and slaughtered in pogroms. And our Israeli brothers and sisters have survived half a dozen major wars and countless ruthless terrorist attacks. Think for a minute about the list of maladies in the Unatana Tokef prayer we're going to recite tomorrow morning. Who before his time, who by water, who by fire, who by sword, who by beast, who by famine, who by thirst, who by upheaval, who by plague, who by strangling, who by stoning, who will wander, who will be troubled, who will suffer, who will be degraded. This prayer was written 1,000 years ago during a time when our ancestors had no reason to believe they wouldn't die from some cruel, untimely death. We are far from the first Jews to face a dangerous, uncertain future. Through 30 centuries of uncertainty, our ancestors mastered the art of living as Jews. We have no control over whether there will be a vaccine or whether or not other people upon whom our lives depend will wear masks and distance and wash hands and stay at home when they should. Despite our early naivete when we thought stay at home meant stay at home for 2 weeks, Most of us now realize that we are in for a very long journey with COVID-19, and there is little we can do to change the year ahead of us. What this means, in the simplest terms, is what the High Holy Days have always meant. We cannot change what will happen to us, but we can change how we live during what happens to us. Having no control over the outer world is not the same thing as being out of control. The Rosh HaShanah question for 3,000 years has never been, how will we change the world? But how will we change ourselves? That we can control. Some of us are old enough to remember the Cold War. We remember worrying about nuclear annihilation. We had duck and cover drills in school in case the Soviet Union launched a nuclear missile at us, hoping to incinerate everything and everyone in a blast the likes of which was unimaginable, but the possibility of which was very real. How did one live in such a time as that? C.S. Lewis had it right when he asked in 1948, how are we to live in an atomic age? It is perfectly ridiculous to go about whimpering and drawing long faces because the scientists have added one more chance of painful and premature death to a world which already bristled with such chances and in which death itself was not a chance at all, but a certainty. This is the first point to be made. And the first action to be taken is to pull ourselves together. If we are all going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb come when it finds us doing sensible and human things. Praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies. A microbe can do that. But they need not dominate our minds. I've been writing a weekly Shabbat message since the pandemic began. As of the filming of this sermon, I have written 21 of them. 21 weeks of trying to make sense of COVID, civil unrest, and more from a Jewish perspective. Of those 21 messages, the two the most people reacted the most to were about the simplest things. The times I reminded everyone that the way to live through this pandemic is not like a whining child asking, are we there yet? And not with anxiety and fear about things over which we have no control, but by a return to the simplest, most basic pleasures and fundamental truths of life. I told everyone that when I get depressed or anxious about the future, I rely on 4 words, the rabbi's secret formula for pulling himself and you out of the emotional tailspins that seem so much a part of life these days. And those 4 words are rye toast with butter. So many of you responded to that message. So many people sent loaves of rye bread to our home that Betsy joked I should have written a message about jewelry. I love rye toast and butter. I have it for breakfast nearly every morning. The crispy, slightly sour crunch softened just a touch by warm melted butter. The utter simplicity of it is its own pristine, perfect beauty. It reminds me that while so much has been taken away, I have so many simple things to be grateful for. Judaism sanctifies the mundane. We could all do well to count our daily blessings in this coming year of uncertainty. Besides the rye toast and butter message, the other that received the most attention and posts on Facebook and Instagram all over the world was about our Leder family Shabbat dinner ritual. Since Aaron and Hannah were small children until this very day, each Friday night after we light candles and before we say Kiddush, we each take a turn to share the very best thing that happened to us during the week that has passed. On the Friday I wrote that message, I wasn't sure when it was my turn if I would mention how beautiful I thought Betsy looked that previous day when she was sitting at her desk upstairs, painting a picture of a yellow bowl and a purple onion on a blue plate as the sunlight streamed through the window behind her. 35 years. And she still takes my breath away. Or maybe I would mention the drive home with Aaron that week from Joshua Tree, playing music, not saying much of anything at all, just two dudes on the road. Of course, there was that moment that same week when Hannah dropped by. She was walking in the front door as I was walking out for a very difficult funeral. "I love you so much, Daddy," she said, kissing me on the cheek. The wisest thing I ever heard about the Bernie Madoff scandal was said by an elderly Los Angeles Jew who lost tens of millions of dollars, wiped out. "You know," he said, 50 years ago, I started out with my wife in a one-bedroom apartment in the valley, and we were very happy together. And if I end my life with my wife by my side in a one-bedroom apartment in the valley, we will still be very happy together." To be a Jew is to make a conscious daily choice to seek and celebrate the simple and the good, come what may. You would think that Yom Kippur would come before Rosh HaShanah, that we would atone for the past by painfully admitting our mistakes, seeking forgiveness, and only then with a clean slate would we welcome the new year. But instead, first we affirm the future on Rosh Hashanah, and then we atone for the past on Yom Kippur. For us, the good, the hopeful, and the happy come first, because we are a people of hope. Without hope, there would be no Judaism, no Exodus, no Torah, no Talmud, no Holocaust survivors, no state of Israel. So what will it be for you? That is the Rosh Hashanah question. What will it be in the coming year amidst the terrible news and uncertainty? What light, what joy, what tiny, precious, hopeful moments will you cherish? What quiet miracles will you embrace? What blessings will you count? In what we affirm with faith in the future will truly and surely be a Shana Tovah.